Bibliophiles of the internet, my name's Adriana, and today I'm here to bring you my first quarter book haul for 2019. So these are all the books that I bought myself or that were sent to me between the months of January and March. I'll be the first to admit I did go a little bit buck wild, and here's where I would typically insert a self-deprecating statement about that, except I have no regrets, so let's just get to the books. First up, I used a Barnes & Noble gift card from Christmas to get myself a copy of From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death by Caitlin Doughty. This is another death-positive nonfiction collection of essays from professional mortician Caitlin Doughty that investigates various death practices from cultures across the world. It's an extension of her critique on Western death practices and funeral industries that have commodified and warped the way people practice grief and death rituals themselves. Then I have a book I pre-ordered like half a year in advance, and that was the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition of The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is the sequel to The Cruel Prince, which is about Jude, who is a human living in the Elven court, where her life, her family, and her peace of mind are constantly under threat. And the series basically explores what she's willing to risk and put at stake in order to gain power and move up in the court. And you best believe this sequel has me just as obsessed as the first book. Then we have another pre-order, The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, which is the sequel to The City of Brass. I have so much love for The City of Brass, which is about an 18th century con woman who does not believe in magic but who pretends to use magic to steal from the noble class. Until one day when she invokes this ancient language that she's always known but that no one else recognizes, which summons forth a Jinn warrior, Dara, whose appearance puts a target on her back. Now she has to seek refuge in the fabled City of Brass, which is a deeply troubled city that is far from peace. Then, entirely because of Sajid, I got myself a copy of A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahara Mafi. This is Own Voices YA contemporary that very strongly draws from Tahara Mafi's own life experiences. It's about a young Persian teenager named Shirin, and it takes place the year after 9/11, which means she is dealing with a lot of casual xenophobia, hatred, and negative misconceptions. She also wears the hijab, which makes her even more of a target for people's dirty looks and degrading comments. So she's very closed off, and emotionally she's put up some very high walls. Until she meets this almost stereotypical all-American young man who knows nothing about her world, her faith, or her experiences, and if she wants to be with him, they have to find ways to reconcile their differences. Then I had also pre-ordered Dragon Pearl by Yoon-Ha Lee. This is an Own Voices middle-grade sci-fi space adventure about Min, whose family has fox magic, which allows them to use charms and shapeshift, but they are forbidden from using that magic. Min would like nothing more than to escape her home planet and follow in her brother Jun's footsteps in joining the Space Forces. But one day word comes back that Jun has abandoned his post in search of the mythical Dragon Pearl, which Min instantly realizes cannot possibly be right. So she sets off to not only find where her brother went, but to clear his name for good and to ensure his safety no matter what. Then I got the second trade paperback volume in the Fence comic series by Joanna the Mad and C.S. Pacat. I would hope y'all know by now that this is a queer sports comic about Nicholas, a scrappy, rough-around-the-edges fencer who wants nothing more than to put the champion fencing prodigy Seiji in his place. The two of them become rivals, and then not only do they end up at the same school on the same fencing team vying for the same spot, but they are also roommates. If you have not gotten on this train yet, consider this to be your sign from the universe. Next are the books I bought when I went to the San Francisco Bay Area to visit my best friend Steven. We definitely spent way too much time in bookstores and did some damage. First, a quick overview of the books I got from Books Kinokuniya, which is a primarily Japanese bookstore, but they also carry mainstream English books, graphic novels, and comics. In terms of actual Japanese manga that I got solely for my own joy and benefit, I picked up volumes 5, 26, and 27 of Naruto by Kishimoto Masashi. I really wanted volume 1 of the series because that would have been so awesome to have, but they didn't have it in stock. So I figured volume 5 was the next best thing because it marks the beginning of the Chunin exam arc and it has all my Team 7 children on the front. Volumes 26 and 27 are like two halves of an incredibly emotional whole, and I just could not leave without my two superpowered children in their most emotionally volatile states. And if you've been around, you know that My Hero Academia is a series I love and read very often, so I could not leave without the Japanese volume 22 of Boku no Hero Academia by Horikoshi Kohei. This particular volume has not been translated into English yet, but it has one of my absolute favorite covers from the entire series up to this point. Then also from Kinokuniya, I got this pristine copy of Bloom by Kevin Panetta. This is a queer graphic novel about Ari, who wants to quit the family bakery to move to the big city so that he and his band can get serious about their music, but he can't quit until he finds his replacement. As he's interviewing for the job, he meets Hector, who seems to love baking just as much as Ari resents it. And as they start training together and getting to know each other, between them there is the possibility of love that just might bloom, which sounds exactly like everything I need in life. Then also from the Bay Area, I picked up The Matchmaker's List by Sonia Lali. This is an Own Voices romance about a character named Reina, whose traditional Indian grandmother wants to play matchmaker and set her up with some suitable future husbands. As a very independent, modern Indian woman, Reina now finds herself drowning in Nani-approved bachelors and disastrous blind dates, and she has to find a way to play by her own rules without shattering her grandmother's hopes and dreams. Then from Candlewick Press, I was sent an arc of Star World by Paula Gardner and Audrey Coulthurst. This is a dual perspective YA contemporary story about Sam and Zoe, who are both struggling to compartmentalize their personal lives. Zoe's younger brother has pretty severe developmental and physical disabilities, and her parents are considering enlisting professional help for him, while Sam's mom has been dealing with a spike in anxiety and OCD ever since her divorce. Zoe and Sam have each other's numbers because of school-related reasons, but they really connect when Sam sends Zoe an accidental text, and their friendship grows exponentially from that point. I will be putting together a recommendations list inspired by this book for the Star World BookTube tour, which you will actually get to see sometime next week. Then my incredibly generous and thoughtful friend McKinley reached out to me and offered to pass along her arc of Mason Deaver's I Wish You All the Best. This is like the book of my dreams, the book of my heart. It's an Own Voices YA contemporary about a non-binary teenager named Ben who comes out to their parents and is immediately kicked out. So Ben goes to live with their previously estranged sister, transfers to a new high school, starts going to therapy, goes back into the closet out of necessity, and just tries to readjust to this new environment. And at their new school, Ben meets this funny, charismatic ray of light named Nathan, who is starting to make Ben believe that maybe they have a chance at living a better, happier life. Then for like half the price, I picked up The Disasters by M.K. England. This is Own Voices YA sci-fi and queer lit about resident bi-disaster and hotshot pilot Nax, who is kicked out of the prestigious Ellis Station Academy in less than 24 hours. But his flight back to Earth is delayed when a terrorist group attacks the Academy, and he is barely able to escape with his life along with the 3 other Academy washouts. So not only are they the sole witnesses to the biggest crime in the history of space colonization, but they also happen to be the perfect scapegoats, which means they have to find a way to step up and fight back. Then another of my generous and lovely friends, Clara from Yarn Owl Reads, was kind enough to pass along their arc of Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuinston. This is an upcoming new adult queer romance about the first son of the United States, Alex Claremont Diaz, who has a very unfortunate, very public confrontation with Henry, the Prince of Wales, at a royal wedding, which is photographed and then leaked to the press. This incident obviously threatens to compromise American-British relations, and the proposed plan for damage control is to stage a fake friendship between Henry and Alex, which just might turn into more than they expect. After that, for the More Manga Book Club, I finally got myself a copy of Go For It Nakamura by Sionde. This is a queer one-shot slice-of-life manga about Nakamura, who is not so openly gay and desperately pining over a classmate named Hirose, who he hasn't even properly introduced himself to yet. Nakamura is known for being very intense and awkward, and this manga chronicles all the extraordinary ways he bungles his way to a very unlikely friendship. Then, because I finally finished all of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, I had to mark the occasion by getting myself the last 3-in-1 manga omnibus, volume 24 of Naruto by Kishimoto Masashi. Naruto is a fantasy manga series about super-powered ninjas. It makes me stupid emotional and makes me feel every inch of my existence. It follows the main character, Naruto, as he tries to graduate from the Ninja Academy, failing spectacularly at every stage. But he is determined to become the next Hokage, the single most powerful person in the entire village, and unbeknownst to his classmates and even himself, there is an incredible force dwelling within him, just waiting to be unleashed. Last but not least, my latest acquisition is none other than A Crystal of Time by Somen Chinani, the 5th book in the School for Good and Evil series. This is a middle grade fairy tale series that begins with these 2 girls, Agatha and Sophie. Sophie is your typical pretty princess on the lookout for Prince Charming, and Agatha lives in a graveyard, wears all black, and her mom is basically the town witch. They are both chosen and taken to the School for Good and Evil, which is where all of the most famous heroes and villains get their start as fairy tales. Except Sophie finds herself dropped in the School for Evil, and Agatha finds herself in the School for Good, which of course they believe is some kind of horrible mix-up. But then again, maybe it's not. So those are all the books I've acquired over the past few months. As always, if any of the titles shown are books that you're really excited about or that you've read yourself, I would love to discuss in the comments below. But that's everything I had for this book haul today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you on the flip side of the page. Bye!